I'm sitting here with Andrew. He's the owner of Evolution MMA that you can see in the background. This guy's been around the block, and especially in combat sports. So he came from a judo background. And he started judo when he was a kid. Then I don't say lost your way, but you went through a non-combat sport part of your life.
Yeah, for 20 years.
For 20 years.
For 20 years.
And then you got back again, judo.
Yeah. So, to be honest, I never really stopped thinking about the judo. What actually happened is the school I was at the time offered judo, so I did it as an additional school sport, and was there for a year, and then they stopped training there, so I kind of gave it up from there, and I drifted into other sports. But I always wanted to get back to it, it just took me a long time.
And then after judo, you started, but that was in the States, so you went back to the States. Correct. And then you did, there wasn't a judo spot, but then you did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Correct. It's kind of fortuitous because actually what happened is the weights gym that I used to train at, the regular gym in the States, there was a judo club upstairs from that place, and there had been for years. So when I was heading back to the States, I was super keen to get back into the judo that side. Went there, the judo club had closed. Okay. So I asked the guys at the gym downstairs, they didn't know of any other judo gyms or where that place had gone, but they knew of this Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym down the road.
Okay, cool. And that's how and then from Brazilian, how long did you do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu before you went into MMA?
I'd have to give it a bit of thought because that was quite a while ago. Probably a couple of years, maybe 2 to 3 years.
Okay, so then, and then mixed, but when you started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, mixed martial arts wasn't really that...
It was in its infancy in South Africa, I began fighting in events hosted by Pride Fighting Academy. They're still active in Cape Town, under a guy called Omar Munim, who's now out the game, but his brother Mikey is still involved and has the gym in Cape Town. And they used to put events on in Cape Town. So there were guys I was training with here in PE, one of them used to fight. And he said to me one day, "Do you want to fight MMA?" I was like, "Definitely not." And a few months later, he asked me again. And I said, "Definitely not." And one day I walked into training and it was like, "Hey, listen, they have an event, do you want to fight?" I opened my mouth to say no, but yes came out. And he was like, "Okay, great." And immediately I was like, "Okay, hang on, this is not what I want." My heart was pounding in my chest, but my ego didn't allow me to say to him, "Actually, no, I don't want to fight." So I stuck it through, and that's where I did my first fight.
And then you did 6 pro fights?
I actually did 3 pro fights through PFA, and then I actually ended up not fighting for another 5 or 6 years. I didn't fight at all. I was dealing with injuries, traveling a lot, still training consistently, and backwards and forwards overseas a lot. And I'm actually not sure how come I drifted out of it for so long. And then I actually did another event. It was an 8-man elimination event, which I did 3 fights in one night. And that was sort of the second half of the MMA episode. Yeah.
Just to let everybody know, if you hear funny sounds in the background, it's the guys who are rolling currently, so doing some jiu-jitsu in the background. So don't worry about it. It's not us that makes it sound. It's not our stomachs or anything. It's the guys rolling. If you take Evolution MMA, so how long have you been in the game before you decided to open up this?
I've been in the game going on 16 years now, so it's probably about 9 years, 8 or 9 years in martial arts, training full time and coaching other guys, but informally, just guys. Because in the early days there weren't jiu-jitsu gyms. There was just a handful of guys in PE that trained, and so what we used to try and do was like pull guys into training. The guys would come and go a lot, and that's kind of the way it was going. Just a group of guys training and guys transient, coming and going, but very few guys actually fighting MMA. Because back in those days when we started with MMA, it was Pride Rules. And the Pride Rules, which was a Japanese organization, it was really a lot more dangerous than the way it's structured now. So what happened eventually is MMA has kind of been governed under sort of boxing regulations. So it's put into strict weight categories and there's strict rules. Back in the day when pride fighting rules applied, it was a lot more dangerous. You could soccer kick somebody to the face of a downed opponent. You were allowed to do a pointed elbow strike, to the face. You were allowed to knee to the face on the ground. A lot of things that you aren't allowed to do now. I don't know, perhaps it was a bit more intimidating than it is now.
And if you take the transition, so would you say, going back in the business life, so would you say that period of taking your time before you started your own business, that was for you a beneficial move to make sure that you know enough and seen enough to make the right decisions in the business?
Absolutely. I mean, you can never have too much experience or enough experience, and no matter how much you have when you enter into a new field. I'd had little business enterprises, over my adult lifetime, but nothing that was a big deal. So yeah, absolutely. The more knowledge and the more credibility you have in the fight game, the better.
Yeah, and I think it's also, in the sense of you've seen so many places. You've coached at multiple studios.
Correct.
You've seen places in overseas. You've seen the studios in the States, and if the audience goes to your website, they will see that this doesn't look like an MMA studio. So this doesn't
Not
look
your typical
like not
MMA
typical. Let's say typical. It has mats and all the kind of stuff that you need.
Correct.
But it's and I think that's something that you've seen in the in the market is it's geared for those specific fighters, not for the general public.
Yeah.
And you've brought that in.
To be honest with you, I've never seen a gym with a layout of mine. I've always been a big dreamer. People have always told me you need to crawl, walk, and then run, which I've never been interested in. I have big ideas right off the bat, and I want to do those things straight away. But I actually ended up in opening my gym by accident because the judo club I was training at the time when I kind of started this business, one of the kids' moms that trained there, she wanted to train jiu-jitsu, but she obviously didn't want to train with a bunch of 20-year-old boys that were fighting. So she asked if I would train her 3 times a week while her kids were on the mat doing judo, because they had a several mat structure there. And I'd actually been unemployed for almost a whole year, been through a bit of a rough patch in my life personally. And I was like, great, So I didn't even know how much to charge her. She offered me some money. I was like, I have nothing now. This is great. And that was in 2011, October. And about 2 weeks later, I just posted for a ladies' MMA fitness class on Facebook on a Thursday afternoon. On a Saturday morning, I had 14 ladies pitch up. And without making it sound like it's been easy, because it's been very hard, the rest is as history.
Okay, so, but that's amazing. I always say that it's amazing when you get people that start. It's not. I don't say by accident.
It was by accident, 100%.
The start was,
Yes.
but everything after that was intentional.
Correct.
You won't this if you see this facility and the way you do, that's not by accident.
No.
Maybe the start is.
The start definitely was, but it took off so quickly. Well, it took off really quickly. And then December holidays came and everybody disappeared. And I was like, okay, well, that's the end of that. We had like a 2-month run. And then in January, people started coming back. And the big thing was when I started the MMA fitness program, which is, so I was still coaching fighters and we were still fighting, but the women's side was MMA fitness only and it was ladies only. And women felt really empowered by it, and there hasn't really been anybody else structuring MMA fitness the same way I do. So yeah, it just took off really well. And to be honest with you, from that first Saturday when I had 14 ladies pitch up on that mat, I didn't organize the class. It wasn't structured. I didn't know what I was going to do. But it just worked. It was amazing. And on that day, I was like, okay, I think I'm onto something. We can really pull something out of this.
So if you take so being in the fitness game, and we also dealing with a lot of fitness studios and gyms and that kind of stuff, what would you say makes it, let's say MMA fitness? I'm not going to say the mom that comes here that wants to be a fighter. MMA fitness. What does that bring differently versus any other fitness? It's not like a promotion, but what do you say that makes that different? Because fitness is fitness. Everybody gets fit and lean and that kind of stuff, but what does MMA fitness do differently? So
here's the thing, I'm very hesitant to say that any one sport is better or tougher than another. And especially in the martial arts game, people in each field want to say that their style of martial arts is the best. And that's really not true. There's no such thing as the best because they all have valuable assets. That's why mixed martial arts was eventually formed. But anybody that's done multiple sports that has tried MMA will tell you how hard it is because it consists of boxing and then it includes the kicking and the knees and the elbows. It's all very explosive movements coupled in with wrestling, and then try and do all of that on the ground as well. It's such a phenomenally dynamic set of movements. So I don't want to say harder, just it encompasses everything. It works every single muscle fiber of every muscle group in the entire body with every single movement that you do. And for us, I think also the way I structured the exercises is part of what made it successful, not just the fitness element itself.
And you must have had a bunch of stories about your clients, but does it have a mental, because you're getting confidence, you're getting not just fitness, but you have a skill evolved. How does that influence your members? If you take that confidence part of you're feeling a bit more self-secure.
Yeah, well, that's a really interesting question because we're actually not in the fitness industry. Well, I don't consider myself foremost as in the fitness industry. I mentioned to you that I'd been through a rough patch. I hadn't worked that year. There were a lot of things going on in my life. And that's a story for another day because it's a really long story. But I had a realization, and it's a little bit cliched, but that for me, because I'd always suffered from depression kind of up until that time in my life, in my sort of mid-late 30s. And I realized that sport for me was my antidepressant. So when I was very young, swimming was my first big sport that I got into. Then road cycling I got into. I did Olympic weightlifting competitively in South Africa for a number of years. And then I got into the judo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and the MMA. So for me, basically what it was is that sport and exercise helped me manage my state of mind, which to me was very important. And because I realized at that stage in my life that it helped me pull through a really tough time, to be honest, what I thought about is if I could figure this out on my own, I literally through a series of events, I changed my state of mind and subsequently my life after that. I figured if I could figure that out on my own, if I could pass that on to other people, that's what I would do. For me, the tool was just MMA. Out of all the sports I've been through, like MMA was the thing. I love to fight.
What you said there is true in a sense of you need to do something that you are not just excel at, but what you're passionate about. Because passion is contagious.
Correct.
It is really contagious. It's like we love. I had a friend that went for cooking class, and this woman is just so passionate about cooking that he just got passionate about it, and he doesn't even like cooking.
Okay.
So passion is contagious.
Correct. 100%.
And you can't do that if you don't like what is passionate about what you do.
And that's why I say there's no, one of my pet peeves is gyms, and very often you get it in fighting style arts where a gym will advertise train with the best. We're the best. So maybe you are a champion and you're the best in that division or whatever it is. But to me, the best is what's best for the client. So for some people it's CrossFit, for some people it's MMA, for some people it'll be horse riding, swimming, triathlon, whatever it is. And that's the key, is that we offer this specific set, and for people that it appeals to, we are the best for those people. And yes, I am. It's been 8 years. We work extremely long hours, and I probably love it more now than I did in the beginning.
But that's the thing, like you said, it's not sustainable if you don't have passion.
Correct.
It's not sustainable.
Because this is a tough industry. Everybody wants to be a fitness expert, everybody wants to be a fitness model, and everybody wants to be the next big thing. So it's passion and it's longevity. You got to put in the miles, and you got to journeyman it out. Otherwise, you're just not going to last.
So, I want to what you said, going through a tough time in your life. So, that experience that you had going through, a real tough time. You said struggling with that time with depression. Do you look at your clients differently because of that? Seeing that, I'm not here maybe to teach them how to punch. I'm here to help them solve that problem through a punch.
Correct.
Or through, whatever you do,
So, I'm just like everybody else. Everybody battles with depression at times. Everybody battles with anxiety at times. Everybody has self-doubt at times, no matter how successful you are. And in fact, very often you'll find extremely high-level athletes and corporate people that are extremely successful. They suffer the most with depression and anxiety. They just hide it well in what they do. So, my thing is I know, to be honest, although I feel like I've possibly achieved more than the average person in what I do, I just feel I'm average. I'm just like everybody else. And if I could have these realizations in life and turn my life around dramatically and drastically for the better, if I can help even one other person do that, then that's what I want to do. So when people step in, I always say to people, we're here to teach you perfect technique, form, and posture. So you're not coming here to be a professional fighter or professional bodybuilder, but if you're doing weights, we're going to teach you exactly what exercises to do, why you're doing them, what muscle groups you're supposed to be targeting. We're going to work on muscle activation, and we're never going to stop teaching you.
Yeah.
When you come in here for the MMA fitness classes, we're going to teach you how to stand, what to do with your feet, what to do with your hands, how to punch, how to kick, as if you were training to be a professional fighter, because we're trying to give you a skill and we want you to be the very best that you can be. So yeah, that's why to me, like, everything is a standard of excellence, and I'll never allow anybody to train here and be average, because nobody needs to be average. We all have greatness within us. Some of us just battle a little more than others to access it.
So Duke, I want to come back to your business. So let's take so if someone walks into this door, so what's different about Evolution MMA is that it's excellent. So you've got a nice coffee shop and a nice interior, and then you've got the floor. How would you say, taking the average of the general population that sees an advert or hears about it, when they walk in here, how does this change their mindset versus, because if they walk in here, they didn't do a class yet, they've not been on the floor yet, they didn't achieve anything yet.
Correct.
But just walking in here, do you see when people walk in here, how does this having a excellent facility, not just coaching, how does that influence the members that come into the gym?
I think the first thing is probably the most common sort of feedback we've had when people walk in the door is that, wow, we didn't expect there to be a coffee shop here. So we wanted to create a very welcoming area when people walk through the door first. So that's why we have the coffee shop first, and then the training area leads on from there. So yeah, when people walk in, I want them to be like, wow. I want them to look around at everything and just be, it's beautiful, the design is amazing, it's super comfortable to be here, and it's extremely impressive. So I want people to be aware as soon as they walk in the door that the standard here is ridiculously high in terms of not what we expect from you, but what we offer you.
And looking at the way that your facility looks like, do you see more corporate people coming into the doors versus, because they are, if you look at a corporate person, because they're running a more of a flagship type of business, do you see that coming in, that challenge, it sways their mind a little bit easier?
I don't think so. I mean, we have a very wide demographic. So we coach kids from 3 years old. Our oldest client is probably around 70 or close to 70. And we have all walks of life. We have a lot of students, varsity students that train here. We have a lot of youngsters that are new in the marketplace. We have a lot of parents that train here. We have people that come from affluent areas, people that come from battling areas. And one of the great things is the vibe here. Everybody is equal.
Yeah.
So you'll never walk in here and ever feel uncomfortable. And that's probably one of the kindest sort of compliments we can get here. When people walk in here, I want people to say, like, we feel so welcome. Like, we feel like we're valued here. And that's the thing. All I want is people to step in the door.
Yeah.
Once they step in the door, I just want the opportunity to show you what we have to offer. And I want you to feel like we value you being here. Whether you choose to come and train here, sign up, go somewhere else, it doesn't matter. I just want people to feel valued and appreciated when they're here, whether it's just for a cup of coffee or they're here to train.
So being coming out of a fighting background, moving into an entrepreneurial background,
Fighting's easier.
But how did fighting, or the discipline that you had in fighting, how did that influence the way you do business?
I don't know if it directly influenced the way I do business, and I will tell you I've made a tremendous amount of errors because I've had little enterprises before this, but never, although we're still a small business, never a business of this magnitude before. So I've probably made just as many, if not more, mistakes than I have correct decisions. And I don't know that it's per se because of the fighting background, but you literally have to have a never say die attitude. If you want to be in business, especially Port Elizabeth is a tough town to do business in, you're going to feel, there were times, I promise you 100 times a day where I wish this place would burn to the ground so I could just be rid of the stress. And it's been 7 years now, and I would say probably from about a year ago, the hard work and sacrifice and stress and anxiety and all the things that go with owning your own business and being an entrepreneur started paying off to the point where I actually got the opportunity to mostly enjoy what we're doing.
And I think that ignorance is bliss. It's because if you knew the battles you're going to fight when starting a business, I think that's a good thing, because then you would never have done it if you knew that the battles you fight. But it's good that you don't know.
Yeah, for me, I say to people, if you sat here with a briefcase with 10 million rand cash and you said to me, this briefcase is yours, but you have to go back 7 years to the beginning, and you're going to have all this knowledge of all the things that you've been through, and you're going to have to relive them and go through all of those things again, from not being able to pay your rent to begging the bank for money, like all the hardships, and you're going to go through the exact same 7 years again, and when you get here, I'm going to give you 10 million bucks, and you can disappear to Bali and spend the rest of your life surfing, which I'd love to do. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it, man. When I tell you, it was so hard, but that was partially my own fault, because we started off renting space at a small judo club. We were there for 6 months, then I rented my own premises that was 100 square meters, and it was a very affordable start. Our rent was manageable, we had 10 punch bags, it wasn't a lot of mats, so we managed and we paid it, and we were making money every month. Then we went from that spot to this place, 600 square meters, 240 squares of mats, full coffee shop, and I spent a ridiculous amount of money opening this place in anticipation of people flocking through the door, because we had been so successful in a smaller place, and it just didn't happen that way. So because I took this massive jump 6 times in space, and I mean, just to give you an idea, my electricity here is the same as what the premises rental was at my previous place. And it was just much too much of a big jump. But now that I'm here, it was the right thing to do. Like, we had to roll the dice and take the chance. But yeah, if I knew that's what it was like and I had to go back, I would never do that again.
So let's say if you need to go back and give yourself advice. Okay, so you want to end up here, and you started where you started with the 100 square, small mat. What would you have, so if you need to give someone advice, what have you done differently?
I would have taken smaller steps between my first personal premises and this space. The problem is that there was nothing in between. And the stuff that was possibly suitable in size was not worth the money that was being asked at the time. So this is what happened. When I walked in here, it was just an open warehouse. There was nothing here. So when we discussed what we wanted with the landlords, they did all the alterations for us. Obviously, it's built into the rental and you pay for it. Yeah. But they did a lot of additions to this place to make it happen for us. But I knew when I walked in here, I knew this was perfect for what we needed. Yeah. I believed we were going to get where I wanted to be much quicker doing it this way. So I rolled the dice and I took the chance. But retrospectively, if it had been possible, from 100 square meters, it would have been good to go to maybe 250 square meters.
Yeah. And then from 250 to a 3 Correct. Was 500, Correct. And then you grow.
Correct.
Eventually, in grow slow.
So that jump was just way too big. Plus, when we opened up, I also, because my standard is personally so high and I want to give the best, we also purchased the best of everything.
Yes.
So I didn't make do with what was good enough. I had to have the best of everything straight away. And that also, again, retrospectively wasn't smart. I should have just got the cheapest of everything, because the facility still looks beautiful, and I could have grown into it. But those are things you learn as you go.
And this is why we started the series as well, is to teach the guys that wants to go up there and do something, that they teach from guys that's been in the game for a while,
So here's my advice with this type of thing, because we're not a small studio or we're not a small gym, but we're also definitely not a big corporate like a Virgin Active or something like that. So for people that want to do it on their own, my advice is to not dream that massive dream. You don't need a massive gym. You don't need fancy premises. You don't need the best equipment in the world. What you need to do is give amazing service. So if you have decent quality and your facility is clean and neat and tidy, and you're friendly and you put your clients first and you make sure they're happy and you give them 5-star service all the time, that's all you need to do. You don't have to have all the lights and all the extra things.
It's like, I like to use the example, what you said there. It's like when growing a tree, you don't shine the apples, you feed the tree, and then the apples will, the fruit will be, so you don't stand and shine the apples. Same thing with your business. Yeah. You don't focus on the money and that kind of stuff. You focus on the client and experience and, the member that comes in here. Yeah. That, all the other things will happen eventually.
Correct.
But if you focus on that, then you build a house on sand.
You do. So the problem is, unfortunately, my personality also didn't allow for it. I think maybe even if there had been something sort of mid-range between what we had and what we came to here, maybe it was available. Maybe in my mind it feels like it wasn't available because I was dreaming so big and I didn't want to wait. Bearing in mind, I also professionally got into the industry for a living late. I started the very beginning of this gym when I was 37 going on 38. So it's still young, but it's not young to enter a completely new industry.
Yeah.
And I kind of just felt, approaching 40, like I need to have something legit. So, I remember things certain ways, but maybe it's not exactly that way. I think it depends what phase of your life you're in. If I'd started this when I was 20 or 25, I might have felt like I could grow a lot slower, but I definitely didn't have enough life experience, knowledge, or maturity at 25 or possibly even 30 to do what I'm doing now, just for me.
Yeah, but you need to take the leap of faith. Don't be apologetic for being excellent. I see a lot of people as they because they feel, don't be apologetic. If you're excellent, then stay excellent. That's not something that you apologize for. And I say this to people as be excellent. Excellence is, people are drawn to excellence.
I believe so. Surround yourself with successful people, and there's greater chance you'll be successful. But you also have to meet that bar. You can't hang around in an environment and not match that environment. So absolutely, and one of the things I say during my classes is I don't expect everybody to be at the same level. I don't expect them to be of my level or people that have a higher level than me. I just expect you to be the very best of what you are at that time and have immediate goals and decisive action to get to the next level of where you want to be. So, again for me, and we touched on this earlier, the kind of basis of fighting as a competitive fighter of any style in life. In fighting, you have to keep your hands up at all times, man. Yeah. Protect yourself at all times. In life, you have to keep your hands up and protect yourselves at all times. You have to be aware. You have to have the drive when things are tough. You have to push through. When you get hit and you get rocked, you have to keep going. You can't just fall down and give up, So that's where the analogy from any style of fighting into life comes to me. And that's what I say to people. When we're training on the mat and I see possibly that, Mondays are tough classes. The weekend's over. It's another work week. People's state of mind is not great. And I always say to people, there's no space for mediocrity in this gym, because you can have 999 perfect seeds and you have one bad seed and it'll poison the rest of them. And I say to people, don't be that person. No matter how tough it feels, don't ever be mediocre. Always just try to be the very best version of yourself that you can be. And that's what we do here. It's just never accept average and always demand more of yourself.
I've got this, I made this my own quote. So I said, I like to say that if you aim for mediocrity, you're going to get it.
Correct.
But if you
always,
you're gonna get mediocrity. But if you aim for success or greatness and you just don't miss it, you're still close to greatness.
Correct.
So always aim for greatness, even though you don't reach it. Just aim there.
Correct.
Because then what's just below greatness is still good. Yeah. It's still great. Yeah. But if you aim for mediocrity at the bottom, you're gonna reach that.
100%.
And that's the thing. So just be excellent.
Correct. And also, the people that train here look to me directly for their motivation and their goals and their improving and their success. But probably a lot of them don't realize it, and possibly I don't tell them often enough, but I rely on them just as much. Yeah. They're always looking at me for guidance and to help them be the best. I feed off all of their energy as well. Yeah. And I don't ever, also probably one of the biggest things in the fitness industry is trainers saying, one day I want Jaco to say, because of me, Andrew, like you achieved your goals. And that's, I really don't like that, because I think it's a bit of a narcissistic approach. I want Jaco to say one day, because of Jaco, you achieved what you wanted. So yes, I'm a part of you, but you're here for an hour a day. That's 4% of your day. What are you doing with the other 96%? So hopefully there's a residual spin-off effect where during the rest of the day, you're conducting yourself at the same high level of excellence that we try to project here. But really, it's 96% you, 4% me. So how much influence am I really having? I don't know. But what I say to people is, I want to give you guys a training, education when you're here. Because nobody stays here forever. You might be here for a month or 6 years. But at some point, you'll move on. You might do another sport. You might go to another gym. And if you train in fighting here, if you go to any fighting gym anywhere in the world, I want the owner or head instructor to walk up to you and say, Jaco, have you trained somewhere before? And you go, yeah, I trained at a gym back home. And I want him to say, I can see that your technique, your style, everything is excellent. Not that it can't be improved, it always can, but I want him to be impressed. Probably one of the biggest things with weights is women don't want to go into weight sections in gyms because it's intimidating. When women train here, I want them to feel free on a Monday, International Chest Day, to walk into the weight section like proud and tall, know exactly what they're doing, what exercises to do, and not feel insecure or concerned in any way. And a training education is one of the many things that we try to offer people here.
Also, I'm a not a science guru, but I like science. So when people teach me, I'm a person, I want to know why. Yeah. I want to know the why, even though I don't need to know the why. Absolutely. I want to know the why.
You must know. You can't just follow me blindly. And in any case, what works for me might not necessarily work for you. Otherwise, everybody would train exactly the same. They would eat exactly the same diet. Everything would be identical, but it's not, because we're all individuals and things work differently. And as far as from the jiu-jitsu point of view goes, when I teach a class, I always teach the textbook international standard way for a technique. Yeah. Then I'll teach my students my way, the way that works for me and little things that I like. And then even for brand new students, even if it's your first day on the mat, I always say to you, Jaco, think for yourself. We're at different heights, different weights, different strengths, different mobility, different flexibility. The way I apply the technique is not going to be the same way you apply the technique. Yeah. So you will feel when it's right, you'll feel when it's wrong, and I want you to use your own brain, because I can give you the clinical information. Otherwise, you could just go on YouTube and watch techniques there, and then go to the gym or go on the mat and just do it on the mat. It doesn't work that way. So textbook international standard, my way, but I want you to find your own way. That's the best way as well.
For combat sport, jiu-jitsu, judo, being quite intimidating. So what do you do if a guy walks in here, never been in anything? Yeah. What do you do to not just ease him into it, but to make him, just comfortable? Yeah. Not just, give him a coffee and that kind of stuff, but just make him comfortable to say that this is not, I don't want you to, it's not here to be a fighter, or depends on his goals, but how do you make your members comfortable that walks in here for the first time?
Yeah. Well, I think, first impressions always count. So that's why when you walk in the door here, just the vibe that the gym is, whether there's 100 people in here training or there's just me here. Yeah. I want you to walk in, I want just to have a nice energy in here. And I do believe we've managed to kind of give that out. So I want people to be at ease when they walk in. I always just try to be as friendly and welcoming as possible. And like I said previously, I want you to feel like I value the fact that you've stepped in the door, even if it's just to take a look around, The challenge with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is that it's such close quarters. You're right in each other's space. So probably more so for women than for men, it's not really the most appealing. So from the women's perspective, fortunately we have quite a lot of girls training Jiu-Jitsu. So I always say to women who are interested in getting into the self-defense, we have lots of women that train here, and in the beginning you're only going to partner up with other women. You don't have to train with the guys. And if you never want to train with guys, you don't have to. It's self-defense, so it's advisable. So we try to basically make it as comfortable for the person as possible, and also on the individual needs. Some girls will walk in here and they'll be like, they want to take on the biggest guy, like on day one. Other people will come in here and be like, I want to train as long as I never have to train with a guy. That's fine. Whatever you want, we're going to give you to make you as comfortable as possible. Eventually, we're hoping to bring you out of your skin and just make you super comfortable in the type of
build that confidence.
Correct, especially with self-defense, because self-defense is extremely uncomfortable. If you come to a facility by choice and you pay your hard-earned money by choice to come and learn to train something, if you are uncomfortable in that environment, could you imagine if you woke up during the night and somebody was in your house and they attacked you in your house? If you can't handle a safe environment where you choose to be from a self-defense perspective, how would you handle it in the street or anywhere else? So from that perspective, we'll make you feel as comfortable as possible when you walk in the door, but we have to try and get you into the mainstream, the reality of what it is.
Now, talking about your excellence, what do you do with your coaches? Not just let's exclude now technique.
Yes.
What do you do? What's key principles that you want to instill in your coaches, or how do you manage that so that they can keep the same level of excellence that you have?
I'm not going to lie, man, it's hard. I've had several trainers working here over the years, and I've had mostly very good trainers, but they'll all tell you, man, I'm a pain in the balls to work with because my standard is never ending. I don't say to them, here's the bar, because for myself, I'm always trying to improve. I'm trying to learn more, improve my knowledge, improve my attitude, improve my friendliness, my customer service. I want to make a better cup of coffee every single day. I want to teach a more energetic class. I want the gym to be cleaner, neater, tidier, better equipment. So for me, I don't ever want to get to the point where I'm like, okay, cool. And to be honest, I've never really taken a chance to look around and be like, wow, this is cool. I just look around and I'm like, where can I make things better? And, we'll find if people are gone for 6 months and they come back, they'll be like, wow, this place is so different. And I'm like, oh, I don't notice that. But I try to reach that. So to be honest, it's very difficult because, some people call it OCD or whatever. I think it's a personality type where things have to be on point all the time. So if you're not that personality type, it's tough. I try to obviously accept the fact that not everybody is the same, and I try to focus on those people's strengths. So I'll always say, if you're working here and there's something I'm not happy with, I'll sit down with you and say, listen, little staff meeting, we need to chat. These are the things that, I would like to see you improve, and they're important and you have to change them. And these are the things you're doing that I really like and I appreciate, So it's just teamwork. And, you have to be smart about pointing out the good things that everybody does and not just about pointing out the things you want changed.
But you're a good example as well, and that also helps. You can't be not excellent and then expect excellence.
Yeah. I try to be. I mean, I have a lot of faults, like everybody else does. But I try to minimize those as much as possible. In the workplace, I want to be as perfect as I can. Yeah. But having said that, the people that train here, my client base, have seen the very best and the very worst of me at the same time. And we have such a fantastic environment here that not once has a client ever come to me and gone like, that's not acceptable, I don't like your attitude today, what's your problem? Like, people are extremely supportive. If I'm having a bad day, and I try to not let it affect me, but sometimes it does, I find it's like a family. They're extremely supportive. People messaging me like, hey, great class, thank you, everything okay, need help with anything. And I think it's important to be real, so you can't be difficult as routine, but I think every now and again, if like your weaker points are exposed, it just makes you human. I don't want people to feel like I'm some type of superhero and I'm up here. Like, I'm not. We're all exactly the same. We're just like have different strengths and weaknesses.
But that's being humble. If you're humble we all try to be, try to be humble, but being humble and understand that who you are and what you're good at or what you're not good at, that gives space, that gives, people want real people, and people don't understand that. You don't have to be perfect, you just need to be real.
Yeah.
And that's what members want as well. They understand everybody's got a bad day and you're not always on par, and sometimes you're sick and sometimes you go through, just say, you got those days.
Yeah,
but just be real, and then if they talk to you, and you just be real, and if you make a mistake, then own up to it.
100%. That happens on occasion where I make errors in the mat when I'm teaching, and I'll apologize immediately. If I don't think I've delivered an excellent class, I will apologize at the end of class. I'll say, great class, wasn't my best, maybe an off day or whatever, but I always strive to give the very best all the time, because the people that are here rely on you for the stuff.
And how do you find that if you take, take classes, how do you find members, how do they react if you're like open to that? If you're like real honest and you apologize, how do the members react to that?
My perception is very positively, and I hope it always is that way. Like I said, we've had probably in the 7 to 8 years we've been going, we've probably coached well over 3,000 people, could be over 4,000 by now. And I challenge you to find somebody that'll tell you. We've obviously had people leave that unfortunately have not left on good terms, but I still challenge you to even ask those 1 or 2 people, when you were here, what was it like? When I was giving you what you wanted and you were happy here, what was it like? You might have been unhappy when you left for whatever reason. So I think, I feel like people are extremely supportive here, and they appreciate that I genuinely just want the best for everybody here. This is not a money industry. I'm not going to Bali on holiday surfing every year. We're not really building big retirements out of what we do. This industry, I think probably in South Africa by and large, and definitely in this town, it's a passion. You do it, you make a living, and that's all it is, and you give a lot of yourself away as a trainer and a coach.
Okay, cool. I've got a few interesting closing questions I've got.
Cool.
What would you say is the best investment, and not just money, your time, money, whatever.
Yeah.
Best investment you've ever made in your life.
Wow. I would probably say, that first. I was telling you earlier, I was shopping online,
Yeah.
fantasy shopping online in the States, and I ended up in this martial arts online store. I hadn't done martial arts in 20 years, and I saw this jiu-jitsu gi, and I had to have it. And my girlfriend at the time was like, "You don't even train martial arts, you don't need it." And it was very expensive. It was like a designer sort of limited edition. And I said to her, "No, but I have to have it. It's so beautiful." And she said to me, "You're not buying that, you're wasting your money." Needless to say, I bought it. And I don't know, off the top of my head, maybe that, because that's what got me back into martial arts. And I honestly think if I hadn't bought that jiu-jitsu suit for $5,000, and that was 15, 16 years ago, it was a lot of money, I probably wouldn't be where I am now. Maybe I'd be somewhere different, better, who knows, but I definitely wouldn't be here. So off the top of my head, probably
that is a good one. You can't get a
And
better answer than
and
that.
I still have that suit.
Yeah.
It's in my locker downstairs. I still use it for training.
Most probably we've answered this before, but what would you say is the if you take a belief or habit that you've got that helps you with your success that you are today? It's most probably the excellence. Yeah.
Excellence, 5-star, not 5-star, 10-star. I want, people walk into this gym and they look around and they're like, "What is this doing in Port Elizabeth? This should be in Joburg or London."
Yeah.
And we literally have people from all over the world that have trained here. And they're like, they've never seen anything like this. So it's not the best gym in the world. There are gyms overseas that I've trained at. It's kind of like a big commercial gym, like a Virgin Active, with MMA mats and bags and a cage and boxing rings. So it's much more grandiose than this. But everything here is very specific, the way we've designed, the layout, the colors, the structure, everything. I want people to walk in the door and I want them just to be like, "Wow, this place is phenomenal." And then from there, I just want it to keep getting better. So excellence, I would say, like 10-star service.
Cool. Then the last question that I've got. So let's say you've got this kid just finished school. He's 18 years old. He wants to get into not just combat sport, but in the business of combat fitness.
Yeah.
In MMA.
Yeah.
What advice would you give him? Straight, the first thing, or what type of advice will you give a kid like that?
Go and get a lifetime of practical experience first. Unfortunately, with a lot of other sports and endeavors and disciplines, you can have zero experience. You can go on a week-long or a month-long or a 6-month-long or a year online course, and you get a certificate, and you're qualified to coach. But realistically, with fighting, they say the industry standard is 10,000 practical hours of practicing your trade, whatever it is, before you're expert level. 10,000 hours. And I don't even know if 10,000 hours does it. So, and I don't want to say it's more technical than other arts, but also it has to do with safety. So, if I train for 4 years, your average martial art, and I get my black belt, am I qualified to teach? Of course I am. I think when you're a white belt, you're qualified to teach. So if you've been training for 6 months and you're a white belt, and somebody else comes in the door and they've never trained, you're qualified to help them. You know more than they do. But to teach people fighting, I just think takes so many years of experience. And I don't just come from the martial arts background. I worked in nightclub security for many years. I was with the police for 10 years. I worked in high-level private security for years as well. So I don't just have the safe competition experience with referees and mats and rules. So I would say, you can get started, but what you really need in this industry is you need a lot of hours, a lot of experience. And unfortunately with fighting, basically unless you've been there and done that, it's very difficult to get the credibility and respect. And there's always going to be guys that have more experience than you that will not recognize what you've achieved. But at the end of the day, I think if you have a dream, go out and grab it and get it. Start somewhere. It's fine as long as you acknowledge where you're at that stage in your life.
Okay, cool, thank you. So for everybody there, please, if you're in PE, you have to come here. Okay, so what's the address?
It's 1 Lower Valley Road, South End.
Okay, 1 Lower Valley Road, South End, in PE. Come just and have a coffee. Come not one of the busiest times. Come through the 5 o'clock.
5:30 a.m., 5:30 p.m. Yeah, yes. First cup of coffee is always free.
Yeah, and then you can sit here. You're at the back. You can sit here. You can look at the mats. You can see what the guys do. Please do yourself a favor, and I just want to thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. It's awesome time.